Hi, I'm Irene Tansman, author of Abby and Arlene's Autism War. Today I'd like to talk to you about retirement considerations for special needs families. I have no qualifications in financial or Social Security planning, but I went through the retirement process myself, and I believe I have some interesting points to make. This video is not meant as financial advice or any kind of expert advice. It is merely a discussion of what I learned as I went through the process. I'm recording this in September of 2020. Information can change as time passes. Special needs families have additional factors to consider when retiring. One of these is the timing of collecting Social Security. When you file to collect Social Security, most likely your child will go off SSI and will start collecting SSDI based on your work record. There are some exceptions for those who are exempt from the Social Security system, but this is the case in most cases. In many cases, the amount your loved one will collect will be higher when collecting the SSDI than when he or she collected SSI. If your loved one receives home and community-based services, in Massachusetts, he is required to pay 3/4 of his Social Security, whether that's SSI or SSDI, to his or her provider for the cost of care. This may or may not be the case in other states. So, in many cases, the remainder quarter that your loved one is allowed to keep is not all that much money, maybe a few $1,000s. If your loved one does not receive any disability services outside of the SSDI he receives, he can go over the $2,000 limit for savings. SSI is a means-tested program based on disability and on assets and income. SSDI is not. That is only based on disability and the person's work record that your loved one is collecting off of. However, if your loved one is receiving home and community-based services or is in ICF care, he still cannot go over the $2,000 savings limit because it will affect eligibility for those other disability services. So it's the other services that make it so that he can't go over that $2,000 savings limit. When he's on SSI, he can't go over that limit because of the SSI, the Social Security itself. 2 years after you file for Social Security, your adult child will be eligible for Medicare. Medicare will be the primary insurance and Medicaid will be the secondary insurance. When your child has a disability, he may be eligible to remain on your employer's health insurance beyond the age of 26, and that is a reason that some people have for working a little bit longer. It is important to consider how the timing of collecting Social Security will affect your child's income and health insurance. So you want to look at those two, the income and the health insurance. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about long-term care planning and a special needs trust. If you set up a special needs trust for your loved one, as you age, there are a few things you might want to consider. First, if you fund the trust, this money will be taxed at an extremely high rate. For 2020, it can be as high as 37%. Therefore, many parents fund the special needs trust upon their death. Oh, and by the way, in order to set up a special needs trust, you're going to need legal help. So setting up the special needs trust upon their death, this is what my husband and I have done. However, some of us will need long-term care ourselves, and that complicates things. Many people do not know that Medicare does not cover long-term care services such as nursing home or in-home care. There are 3 ways to fund long-term care in the U.S. Number 1, which is very common, you spend down your assets until you qualify for Medicaid, and then Medicaid will pay for long-term care services. However, if you spend down your assets, you might want to consider how this will affect the funding of the Special Needs Trust at the time of your death. Another way to deal with the long-term care insurance needs that you have for yourself is to purchase long-term care insurance. But this can be an awfully expensive option. This option may protect your assets to fund the trust upon your death. Now, the third way to fund long-term care services is basically you have to be very wealthy and you can just pay it out yourself. But long-term care is extremely expensive and most people can't do this. It is important to note that if Medicare covered home health aides, such as some politicians have proposed recently, this problem could be alleviated. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about ABLE accounts, because some families turn to ABLE accounts to save money for their loved one with a disability. Money that goes into an ABLE account is your loved one's asset and cannot be tapped if you are spending down your assets for your own long-term care. I will place a link in the description below regarding ABLE accounts. When your loved one passes away, the funds in the ABLE account will be returned to Medicaid for the cost of his or her care. I have found the ABLE account to be cumbersome. It is an investment account. It is easy to put funds into the account, but not as easy to take money out of the account to use for items and services that my son needs. If you funnel money from the account into your loved one's checking account to pay for items and services, the time of the clearing of the checks could cause your loved one to go over the $2,000 savings limit. If you take money directly out of the account, you might not have the correct records you need to prove that you used the money for your child. There are also certain politicians who have proposed raising that $2,000 limit for savings, which was set in the 1970s and has never been adjusted for inflation. So we hope that that will be changed in the future. So what do you think? Do you have additional points to make regarding retirement and special needs families? If you do, please feel free to make a comment below. If you live in Massachusetts and your loved one is enrolled in a day habilitation facility, or if you're considering day habilitation for your loved one with IDD and/or autism, please consider joining the Day Habilitation Families in Massachusetts Facebook group. I hope you'll consider buying my book, A.B. and Arlene's Autism War. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks again.